Space exploration is humanity's greatest achievement, but it's also come with an unimaginable cost. Behind every successful mission are stories of courage, sacrifice, and tragedy. These are the deadliest astronaut missions ever recorded, and the brave souls who never made it home. Michael J. Adams, the X-15 that never returned. On November 15, 1967, U.S. Air Force Major Michael J. Adams boarded his experimental X-15 rocket plane for his seventh and final flight. The mission seemed simple: reach the edge of space at 250,000 feet, conduct a stellar photography experiment, and glide back to Earth. Adams had already proven himself a skilled test pilot, but what he faced that day was far beyond ordinary flight. After being released from a B-52 bomber at 45,000 feet, the X-15 ignited perfectly, rocketing upward at nearly 4,000 miles per hour. He reached an altitude of 266,000 feet, officially entering space. But as he began his descent, the X-15's attitude control system malfunctioned, and the aircraft started to yaw uncontrollably. Adams fought to regain control, but as the jet plunged into denser atmosphere, aerodynamic forces multiplied. Traveling at Mach 3.5, the X-15 began to break apart mid-air. The wreckage scattered across the Mojave Desert. Michael J. Adams became the first American to die during a spaceflight. He was posthumously awarded Astronaut wings, an honor paid in sacrifice. Vladimir Komarov, the man who knew he would die. 6 months before Adams's death, tragedy struck in the Soviet Union. On April 23, 1967, Vladimir Komarov walked toward his spacecraft, Soyuz 1, knowing it was doomed. He was aware of over 200 design flaws that engineers had reported, but that Soviet leaders ignored under political pressure. His friend Yuri Gagarin, the first man in space, begged officials to cancel the launch, even volunteering to take his place. Komarov refused, knowing if he didn't fly, his friend would. Moments after liftoff, systems began to fail. Solar panels jammed, orientation systems glitched, and the craft spun uncontrollably. After 18 orbits, Komarov was ordered to attempt re-entry. As he descended through the atmosphere, his main parachute failed to deploy due to a known design flaw. The backup tangled with the drogue chute, leaving him helpless as the spacecraft plummeted at over 250 miles per hour. Komarov cursed those who sent him up, fully aware his seconds were numbered. When Soyuz 1 hit the ground, it flattened into a disk of molten metal. Komarov's body was burned beyond recognition. His sacrifice forced the Soviets to ground future flights and redesign the Soyuz program completely. Soyuz 11, the crew that died silently in space. On June 6, 1971, the Soviet Union launched Soyuz 11, sending cosmonauts Georgy Dobrovolsky, Vladislav Volkov, and Viktor Patsayev to dock with Salyut 1, the first space station in history. For 22 days, they lived and worked in orbit, conducting experiments, setting endurance records, and proving that humans could survive in space for weeks. Everything went perfectly until the return. On June 30th, their capsule landed smoothly in Kazakhstan. Recovery crews cheered as they approached, ready to greet three heroes. But when they opened the hatch, they were met with silence. All three men were dead, still strapped into their seats, faces blue and motionless. An investigation found that during descent, a pressure valve opened prematurely, venting the cabin's air into space. The crew lost consciousness in 20 seconds and died from hypoxia within a minute. The Soviets realized the horrifying truth. They had just completed the first mission to a space station, but also suffered the only human deaths to occur in space itself. From then on, all crews were required to wear pressure suits during launch and re-entry, a rule still followed today. Mid-video CTA. If you're finding this video interesting, hit the like button to support the channel and subscribe so you never miss the forgotten stories behind humanity's space race. Challenger disaster, the day the sky fell. January 28, 1986. Millions watched live as Space Shuttle Challenger lifted off from Kennedy Space Center. Aboard were 7 astronauts, including Krista McAuliffe, a teacher chosen to inspire a generation. But the night before launch, engineers warned that the freezing temperatures had stiffened the O-ring seals on the solid rocket boosters. They begged NASA to delay the mission. Under pressure to proceed, NASA launched anyway. 73 seconds after liftoff, a small flame appeared on the right booster. Within moments, it burned through the external fuel tank. At 11:39 a.m., Challenger disintegrated in a fireball visible across the Florida sky. The crew cabin separated intact and continued upward briefly before falling for nearly 3 minutes into the Atlantic Ocean. Evidence later showed some crew members activated their emergency oxygen. They were alive, but helpless, during the fall. All 7 perished on impact. The tragedy led to a 32-month suspension of shuttle flights, the redesign of the booster system, and stricter safety standards that shaped NASA's future missions. Columbia disaster. The final descent. 17 years later, tragedy struck again. On February 1, 2003, Space Shuttle Columbia was returning from a 16-day research mission. During launch, a chunk of foam insulation had broken off the external fuel tank and struck the shuttle's left wing. Engineers suspected possible damage, but NASA leadership dismissed it as minor. For 2 weeks, the crew worked normally, unaware of the hole in their wing's thermal protection system. As Columbia began re-entry over the Pacific, superheated plasma entered the damaged wing, reaching 2,500 degrees Fahrenheit. Sensors went offline one by one. Then, over Texas, the left wing tore apart. The shuttle broke into thousands of pieces at Mach 18, scattering debris across hundreds of miles. All 7 astronauts died instantly. The disaster forced NASA to implement new safety protocols, including mandatory on-orbit inspections and repair capabilities for all future shuttle missions. If this story moved you, subscribe for more true space and history documentaries. Leave a comment below. Which of these missions shocked you the most? And remember, every time we look up at the stars, we're seeing the dreams they never stopped chasing.